Hi everybody, Andrew here, and this is the third video out of three about the sermon uploads. The first video was about getting the SD card. The second was what the sound guys do to edit the sermon and then put it on Google Drive. Now this third one is about what Debbie does. She takes the web version and puts it up on SoundCloud and configures the website. I'm not going to cover what Debbie does with the final version. She basically copies it down and then burns a disk with iTunes and then duplicates that. But that's a well-known process, so I'm not going to cover that here. Okay, so Debbie already knows this process. So this isn't really going to be from her perspective. This is going to be for someone else. So Debbie normally would use Expand Drive to go get the web version, but for everybody else, you would use the web interface to Google Drive. So wherever your Wellspring shared drive is, you go down to Worship Life and then to Bang Bang Web, and then get the most recent file. And it's dated year, month, day, and then the service. Okay, so you want to download that, so you right click on it and download, and we'll put that right onto the desktop, which I've already done in a practice run here, but it'll save it there. So now that we have the file, we want to go to SoundCloud. Now I'm already logged into SoundCloud. I'm not going to say the ID and password in this public video. You'll have to look that up or ask Debbie what it is. But you see here we're logged in as Wellspring Church. Next step is just click Upload. Once we're there, we click on Choose a File to Upload, and we're going to go to the desktop and choose the sermon. I downloaded it twice, but they're both the same, so I'll choose this one. There's the name it took from the file name. We changed the genre to custom sermon. You can leave the tag or delete it, doesn't matter. And now we want to fill in the description with what we have from the sermon profile. So over in your email, you've got the sermon profile, and you grab the description, copy, and paste it into here. You want to get rid of this share on Facebook. I can't change that default for some reason, so you got to unclick it every time, or else it'll go right up to Facebook even though you're not done yet. Update image, go to the photos folder under sermons on your local drive, choose picture, let's just say it was Kevin. Just ignore that, it may be blurry. We should get better pictures in the future, but for now that's what we've got. And then we go to the permissions tab and say we want to enable downloads, and yes, it's lawful because we made the file. And then save, and then it this takes a lot longer when it's a normal size file. It will process, it takes quite a while. Then you go to the track. Then once you're there, it might still say it's processing, but when it's done, then this share button will appear, and we want to go into share, go to embed, and then the middle option, and then just click on this and copy that. That is the embed code that we need to put on the website. So now we want to put it on the website. Again, I'm not going to talk about how to log in to the back end of the website. Look that up in the documentation or talk to Debbie. Just because this is a public video. So the first thing you want to do is create a sermon series. Even if it's an individual sermon on this version of the website, we create a sermon series. If it's an individual sermon, it's just the name of the sermon. If it's an actual series, then it's the name of the series, and then each sermon has a different name. So what we do is we just click on sermon series to list all the existing sermon series, and we just duplicate one. So just mouse over it and duplicate. This will get you most of the settings, so you don't have to do everything all over again. So it created a draft, so it's not published yet, and then you edit that. Click on edit, and then you give it a name. The name of this was test sermon, but if you've forgotten the name, you can go back to the sermon profile to find the name. So we're going to call this test sermon as soon as it's done loading. Test sermon, and then you have to change the slug here It has to be all lowercase and no spaces. You use dashes instead. So now it has a unique slug. And then down here, you want to get rid of this sermon series tag and add your own. Test sermon add. This tag is what connects sermon series to sermons. So sermons that have the same tag as a sermon series are part of that sermon series. And then you just click on publish. Now this sermon series exists, and so now we want to actually create the sermon. So again, you just want to copy one. We'll go to this one, duplicate it. Clicked on duplicate, and now it'll create a draft, and then we want to edit that. By the way, just clicking on the title is the same as clicking on edit. We go into there. We want to change it to test sermon. Okay, once it's done loading, test sermon, and then again, edit the slug. This is a different post type, so you can name it the same slug as you did the sermon series. Hit OK, and then go down here, get rid of this one, and then it will know about test sermon. It'll start matching it, so you can just click on it and then add. So now this sermon is part of that sermon series. Now down below here you have the excerpt. That's this description. Paste the description in. And this is my sermon. I said this on March 22. Whoops. March 22, 222. That's habit. If there's a passage, you put it in here. They have to be separated with space, vertical bar, space. Vertical bar is shift backslash. I'm just going to pretend that there's only one here. John 3:16. You can also leave it blank. And then you've got this overview, which is the same description. Paste that in. Then you've got the SoundCloud code. So we go back here, copy this, select, and paste over it. If it's a single sermon, you don't need this series name or this series URL. If it's an actual series with multiple sermons, you want to fill those in. If you have a small group guide, you put the URL to the PDF here. This dark sermon title, if the background is light, you want to select this box so that the sermon title will be dark. And if the image you have for the featured image has text on it, you want to say no title. But we're not going to do that this time. We're going to change that. So that's it for things we need to change here. And now we'll go over onto the right hand side, and we want to get rid of this featured image because it's not part of the ID series. And then we want to say set featured image. And the one we use when we don't have one is community. There it is. It's just a yellow swirl. We might change that in the future, so that this video might be a little bit out of date because we'll change the default image, but that's the one we're using at the moment. And then we publish. And that does remind me, I did forget to do that featured image for the sermon series, so I'm just going to go back to sermon series. And then once that loads, the test sermon series, I'm going to edit that. And once that loads, on the right hand side, the featured image is wrong. So we're going to remove that featured image after it's done loading. And it, of course, goes back up to the top. So we're going to remove that featured image, set the featured image, and again, community. There it is. Set the featured image, and then we'll update. Okay, so now, as always, the final step is to test. So I'm just going to go to Wellspring. Visit site. I can move this down here. And once that loads, we're going to click on Sermon. Or that is Sermons. So we click on Sermons, and the latest sermon should be at the top, so we'll see a yellow swirl. This is just a test, so I'll have to real quick delete this after I'm done with this video. But so we got this swirl at the top, Andrew test sermon. Let's listen to that. Okay, there we go. So it worked. And so it plays. Let's test the verse to make sure that loads properly. John 3. Yeah, it's acting a little weird right now. I don't think that's a problem on our side. I think it's thebible.com. But anyway, so it did bring us there. The sermon's in the list. So we're good. Everything worked. Okay, well, congratulations. You've watched all 3 of the 3 videos. Hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, of course, let me know.